Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the online audience. Upcoming, we have a very interesting discussion about data ethics and how to set up data teams in an organization and what culture businesses actually need to handle data right. We have Jonas Rashedi as our host, who is one of the well-known data marketeers in Germany. He is right now the chief data officer at the FUNKE Medien group, which is one of the largest publishers in Germany. He was recently the director of data and analytics at Douglas, and he is the creator and host of one of the most well-known German data podcasts called My Data is Better Than Yours. Together with his panel, he will discuss the importance of data in companies, what challenges leaders and teams face in order to handle data right, and how a data-focused culture can look like, and how to integrate ethical principles in the data processing. Prior to that, Jonas will set the stage and highlight a few key takeaways about data-driven marketing, the challenges it faces today, and how they can be overcome. And with that, I say, give it up for Jonas.
So, yeah, it's new for me because I didn't spoke English for the last 7 months because I'm working in a German company, so I need to train. And I thought we could start with 15 minutes of silence after the lunch. No, just kidding. So I would like to start with the presentation. Or not. Technical problems. So who's working in the digital marketing since more than 10 years? Or, no, wrong question. Who's working in a digital marketing? Who's working in the legal? Okay, 50-50. Could I get my slides there as well? Ah, amazing. Cookieless future. So let's start. Yeah, who was really prepared for the GDPR stuff? 2, 3 hands. Okay. Who is really prepared for the third-party cookie future? Ah, that would. So it's okay. I can start with my presentation. Yeah. Once a time for more than 5 years, I think there was a very, very wild time. I'm not sure if you know it, but no restriction, more or less. GDPR was, let's say, at the horizon. Nobody cares. No cookie consent. No restriction. For example, you could export the CRM email data and upload them to Facebook and to Instagram and to TikTok, and let's have fun with the customer data. And I think it was really critical. After that, there was more or less a big change, GDPR. And we saw that I think 3 or 4 people of, let's say, 100 was prepared, so 3%, who implemented a cookie after the GDPR launched. Cookie banner. Consent banner. I think it's better. Okay, more strange. Who has a cookie consent banner on his website? Okay. I thought it's after the lunch, it's a bit lazy. Okay, let's start. Okay, in my opinion, it was really critical, and there were companies like User-Centric was really prepared for the cookie or the consent banner and GDPR, thinking about processes, thinking about what data you should push to the US and how you could handle the data. So it was a really hard world because there was the end. After GDPR, there was the end of the area. So I think ad blocker was critical, but after ad blocker, there was the GDPR, and GDPR was more or less a new time. So, but to be honest, life finds a way. Life finds a good solution. So our job is to do marketing based on, let's say, targeting options. And I think it's very important to find a good and ethical, correct way to handle data. Because if you look now at data, customer data, visitor data, and stuff like that, they are more or less like stars in the sky. Because you are not really able to treat or handle the data in the correct way. Because if you compare it to 10 years ago, you will see that there's a big difference how you could or should treat data. And if you compare your, let's say, calendar with the legal department, or on the other side, the digital department, I think we have an increase of meetings with each other to find a good solution and how we could protect the data on the one side, and on the other side, how we could protect our asset, the customer data. So there should be a new perspective. Who thinks he should or she should be prepared for the future? Okay, that's clear. So I'm done. You see, I need to get involved, or you should be involved, because after that now the world is very cloudy. Who thinks, if you compare, let's say, visitors or visits on a website, who thinks he's covering more than 80% of the real data? No. Who's covering more than 50% of real data? 20%? Who covers 100%? Really? Legal conform? So, yeah. So 2024, there will be a big change. End of third-party cookie loss. And I'm not sure why nobody is prepared for that. You see 3% or 4%. 4 or 3 people raise their hands. And the problem is, in my opinion, that if you compare the browser share, Google Chrome have more than 50% of the market share for browsers, and that could be very critical for the future. Because if you compare now your data, and if you think you don't need to prepare anything for the future, that could be very critical. Because after 2022, there will be the point that someone will shut down third-party cookies in Chrome. There will be a solution for sure, but there will be a big change, and you need to be prepared for that. So there should be a new technology. Who's working in a digital department? Who has a tag management tool? Who owns it? Who has hard-coded pixels? One. That's good. Who's using a tag management and a consent tool? Okay. I think it's very important to find a good solution, because if I compare my work at Douglas, we thought that we started with hard-coded pixels. It was really critical to find a solution for change in the technology, or we could solve things, always IT sprints and stuff like that. So it was a prio stuff. And if you compare revenue against technical improvements, there was always the prio for revenue. But after that, after 4 or 5 years, we changed it from hard-coded to data layer to normalize the data. On top of that, consent to ensure that the user says yes or no. After that, tag management to ensure that the data from the data layer with the consent is transferred to Facebook, Instagram, and stuff like that, to ensure that you do the things in the right way. And at the end, we started to use CNAMing and server-side tracking to go ahead. So there should be a breakthrough. You need to find a solution for the new technique. You need to find like you didn't do it for the GDPR stuff, but you need to do it for the cookie stuff in the future. It's not about that cookies will not work in the future, but third-party cookies for sure will not work in the way you thought. So again, the question, who needs data for their marketing? Light on, light off, light on, left. Who has access to the required data? Okay. So if you compare the history of the data, and years ago, the value of the data wasn't really clear, but the data availability in the wild time was very, very high. But now, at the point, there will be a change. Data availability will decrease, and value of data already increased. More or less, all companies are discussing data strategy stuff and buzzwords, so how we can go forward. We need to use data for the future, but nobody really cares if they already have the right data or what they need to do to be prepared for the future. So that's really critical. And that's fun. There's a crocodile. So it will be hard. It will be very hard. Okay. This is only the beginning. What should you do for the future? There are adaptive strategy, and on top of that, short-term strategy. Adaptive strategy is you need to establish processes for new improvements. You need to find a good way to discuss legal stuff with your lawyers. You need to find a good way to prioritize changes in the how you collect data. What I could show and recommend are 3 very, very short-term tactics. Identification. You need to identify your users on the website. You can help them have a discount or loyalty program, stuff like that, to get the email addresses, to get logins, to ensure that you identify the users in the right way. On top of that, after you identify the users, you need to centralize the data in the right way. You need to have a data lake, not data leak, a data lake, to ensure you have the data in the right place. You need to use those data to do personalization, to give the users something back to help them to be able to provide the necessary data. Because 2009, somebody talked about GDPR and stuff like that, and it was very clear and comes. After that, Schrems 2 was there. After that, the US digital leader had something new about the transatlantic executive order. So there's now the first point that the DACH region is ahead of the US countries, in my opinion, because we already know how to treat data in the right way. We already know that there's the GDPR, how we could solve it in the right way. After that, there was a change in our country again. I'm not really sure if those people are digital natives and if they know what they do when they change things in the law. My personal opinion. After that, Schrems 3, again, a change. So what I would like to say and underline is that you need the adaptive strategy for the future to ensure that after a new change in the law, you need to find a good way to treat the data or to collect the data in the right way, because you need that for marketing, you need it for, find a good way for the future for your company. So if we compare this from the left to the right side, 100 users are sitting here. I thought we could do it with the light, but I think it's really critical. 100 on the left side. Who thinks he has a, let's say, consent rate over 50%? Under 50? Okay, let's fix it 50. 100 users on the left side after GDPR, cookie consent or consent banner 50 users, ad blockers. Do someone knows the ad blocking rate? 10%, let's say 10%. After 50, 10% on top, so it's 45. And then 45 from 100 already are there left. And then you could discuss things like ITP, app tracking, and stuff like that. And then it will be, let's say, 40, 35. So it's really critical. So you need to find a way from the left to the right side to collect the data in the right way and to ensure that you have at least, let's say, 60 or 70% to use those data for your marketing. So, historical recap. On the left side, 2017, there was already a change, Safari ITP. After that, ITP 2.0. After that, the change in Google for the first time, or the announcement that they will change something. And now, 2024, there will be a big change for third-party cookies. So there will be a big change in your data, and you need to find a good way to treat it. And to be honest, that's my last slide, you need to find a way, because if client-side tracking, third-party cookies will die, you will have big changes in your audience to, let's say, collect them in the right way and to push them back into the marketing channels. It will be critical for your remarketing, because you will not be able to remarketing all of your users. There will be a big change in the impressions data. There could be a big change for attribution and for smart bidding. And then you could think about flip from client-side tracking to client-side or server-side tracking. So there will be an improvement, 2 digits in my opinion, for percentage. But on top of that, Safari already switched the first-party cookies to 7 days. And on top of that, there was already an announcement that there will be a change that first-party cookies will be only allowed if they are added from a domain where the last 2 octetten will be same. So there will be a big change for there as well. As I said, adaptive strategy. And there could be a solution, server-side tracking with JENTIS. I'm sure here are some of those people sitting in the room. They will help you. So, that was 15 minutes of silence and 15 minutes of English recap. I would like to start or to switch to our panel. The panel is, what culture do businesses need to handle data in the right way? Applaus. I thought you could introduce yourself.
I thought.
I thought.
Machst du dazu, Moritz?
Okay, so my name is Ramona Greiner. I'm actually from the humanities. So like 100 years ago, I studied art history and philosophy. I did my PhD. I co-founded a startup, and that is actually how I could make my passion for the internet to my profession, and started at FELD 6 years ago. FELD is a consultancy for data-driven marketing in Munich. And you can get Ramona out of philosophy, but philosophy not out of Ramona. And that is why at FELD I'm mostly focusing on privacy topics, on data ethic topics, digital ethics, and also more and more AI ethics. And besides that, I'm a lecturer for business and society at the Munich Business School. And with my students, I talk a lot about the changes that all the usage of data brings with it, and how a data culture can be established in companies, in big corporations, but also in the whole society. And I think we need such a very data literate data culture. And yeah, I'm happy to talk with you.
My name is Jürgen Weichert. I am Chief Revenue Officer at JENTIS. Served before that as in the same function at User-Centrics, one of the consent management providers, where Jonas was a hopefully happy customer of ours. And before that, I worked for quite a long time at Google and a lot of scale-ups in the US, in Europe. What accompanied me since the early 2000s was always data-driven cultures. And I can only second what Ramona says about data ethics, data culture. Data culture is super important to be successful, in my opinion. Data ethics is super useful and important to make it meaningful to society. And as a father of two teenage daughters, that's also a very important point to me. And I'm looking really forward to this panel.
Yeah, my name is Gregor König. I'm the Group Data Protection Officer of Erste Group. So I'm capable of the DPO role. So you see, I've obviously a legal background here. And I'm with Erste for quite a long time. So I'm in the field of this actually minefield, I would say, between, on the one hand, looking out for privacy and the protection of the data subjects, but on the other hand, also to enable business to work with data and hold also the pressure from business and enable things. So it's a very, I would say, difficult field. Before I first started to work with Erste, I was working actually for the Austrian Data Protection Authority, which was back then a different setup than it is now. It was before the times of GDPR, so data protection was not so much in the mind of everybody. So it has become a very important topic, and I think we will discuss this in detail now in this podium and also around these days, that it's all around us, and therefore we need to talk about it. And yes, I also can underline what has been said by Ramona and Jürgen. Creating the culture and talking about things is very important. I mean, as I said before, the business side is the one who is trying things out, who is running ahead. Like it's always with technique is running ahead, business is running ahead, and then the legal community, the data protection community needs to discuss things, right, catching after them. Also, GDPR was some catch-up to some extent. So we need to talk about this because it's all around us.
Yeah, let's start with a simple question. Why do we need to talk about this topic at all? Why do we need to talk about this topic at all?
That's a very good question, because we get paid for it. No, seriously.
Okay.
In a way, poorly, but a little bit. No, seriously. I mean, if you take a look at the big mega trends like AI, data-driven decision-making, data-supported decision-making, without data, we are nothing. People used to say data is the new oil. For me, that's complete BS. Sorry about the very plain language. Insight is actually the oil that fuels the business. And insight can be created by handling data in the right way. Data alone is just data. It's worth nothing. But then creates insights. With insights, we create better decisions. We become more productive. Our societies are actually shrinking societies. So we need to get more productive. And need to do that in a way that the society is still a society where we want to live in and our children want to live in. So that's, I would say, some small reasons why the topic should be important.
I think it's important because companies are concerned with the whole topic. People say that data and trust are the currencies of the 21st century. And what that means is basically professor from Geneva, Professor Seele, once wrote in a preface of a book that companies are faced with a freak wave. And maybe some of you know what a freak wave is. It's when in the open sea, two very big waves overlap. They become a freak wave, and they are really huge. And the freak wave that businesses are faced with are, one thing, digitization, and on the other hand, the demand for sustainability in its broadest sense. So being ethical, aware, doing good, because not only it is required from our consumers that we are doing good as a company and that we are acting and behaving in a very ethical way. It's also, you know, the demand for good supply chains, and that people want to buy fairly produced fashion. And so the whole system is faced with these freak waves. And I think that is one reason why we should talk about that.
Jürgen?
Yeah, from my perspective, I would say three main reasons. Again, coming, of course, from a company, it's something which is picked up from the company as a topic. So we need to discuss about it. So we need to really get along with the different views. So that's the one thing. The other thing is that it is all around us, not only in the company, it's around us in, I would say, in the media. I mean, there's no week where there's no data scandal or any topic about data protection. There's no week where we don't see any even quite big fines issued as of now. And you see actually the trend in the data protection authorities' work that the fines are really steeping up. The 1.2 billion fine this week. For Meta on top of it. And the third point, of course, is it's a regulatory topic in the end as well. I mean, it's, of course, the ethical part is something which is above of that. But, of course, company, on the one hand, care about or should care about regulatory topics. On the other hand, of course, it's expected also from the data subjects that regulatory demands are kept. We all know that there's definitely a difference in the whole public and on the perception of such things. Some do not care. Some are very much caring about it, and in between, every shade of grey. So this is there. But there is definitely this regulatory, with a demand or a driver as well there. So that's the three main reasons why I think we need to talk about this constantly.
Will data protection or discussions about data ethic hindering innovation or hindering marketing? Because I think there was a really good wild time.
It's actually perceived very much as hindrance in the first place, because you see, if I look at my company, of course, when there is something to get to production, to get to, so to say, to be used in practice, you need to follow certain processes. These processes are partly required. Actually, banking business, of course, from the banking regulator. But then, of course, there are such things like you need to keep up with security demands, you need to keep up with the data protection demands. Of course, someone is saying if I need to keep a list of 50 things straight, it's a hindrance somehow. But this has, I would say, changed, well, at least for my company, but I see it also in the whole, I would say, banking industry in the past years, that they see not only, so to say, the hindrance, but also the benefits out of that. You can put it, so to say, at your reputation that you're keeping things quite fine, and these things. So I think that is also quite a benefit. And I think on top of that there is, and we have here a very, I would say, privacy-minded community, data-minded community. But well, look at the public outside in general. They are probably, as I said, probably not concerned. But if they are concerned, they probably have the feeling, what's going on there? Artificial intelligence. There's new techniques coming up. We don't understand this. We don't understand what it does, what it will affect our lives, for example. So. It's also relevant that this aspect of regulatory and also ethics on top of that can be some sort of safeguard, can be some sort of, also for those people who just, well, I'm not so much into the topic, but I see these people are taking care of that. So that could be also some reluctance here.
Ramona?
Yeah, I think the question should be, is it hindering innovation where? Because I think for Europe, it's what you can call an unfair advantage. So everyone that has ever filled out one of those business model canvases might be familiar with the term of an unfair advantage. So an unfair advantage is something that can't be copied, that can't be imitated easily by competitors. And I think with our ethical principles and our long history of privacy in Europe, we have something like this unfair advantage, because a value-based competition based on the values that, as I said, has been established for centuries in Europe can't hardly be imitated in most of the other or in some other regions of the world. And I think we in Europe should take this as an advantage where we are ahead of our competitors or other regions, and having this consumer-focused approach to marketing, to selling our products, to producing our products, to developing our products. I think, yeah, it's rather an advantage than a disadvantage.
I would like to refer to the good old times. And the one thing which is, I think, most important about the good old times is that they don't matter, because it's over, because it's the past. The regulatory environment is there. Everybody has a level playing field, and everybody has the same conditions, at least in this market. Other markets are following, so in the future there will also be the same conditions. And at the end, Ramona already referred to the unfair advantage. We were one of the first who had this hindrance that made us work harder to work with data properly. And the question is, what is real innovation? Real innovation should probably bring something positive to the market, not only for one player or two, but for the market as a whole, including the consumers. And that's why I think in the long term it will be definitely an advantage, and thinking about the good old times doesn't bring us further into the future, and we need to go into the future.
And maybe one thing is that we also have a term for this, the European Union being a role model for the rest of the world. It's the Brussels effect. So the whole world more and more adapts to the standards that are set by the European Union. And so this again shows that we are one step ahead already.
Is there any question? No. We are done. No, just
there is a question. There is a question.
Thank you. Hello. Well, just as you said, Ramona, my name is Milena Mora. I come from Ecuador. In Latin America, as you said, in such Brussels effect has brought up a new wave of legislations on privacy and data protection. We are new, we are recent on this matter, and I would like to know what are your takes or what are your recommendations for countries like mine, which do not have like this background on privacy and data protection, for businesses, since I am a lawyer and it is sometimes hard to speak to managers about the importance of handling data right and complying with privacy and data protection legislation. So what are your takes and recommendations on that?
Yeah, on the one hand, I think there is this global pressure with which you might get those people who aren't aware already. And the other thing is, building knowledge and raising awareness for all the topics. I think this is the best thing we can do, and people won't catch up like centuries of the development of those values. But raising awareness and distributing knowledge, also getting people privacy literate, not only the business people, but also the broader public. through education in schools and stuff, this will also put some pressure on the companies to catch up with all those things. Yeah, but maybe you also have something to contribute.
I hope so. At least I have something to answer, and we will decide whether it's a contribution or not. But no, I think it's a very important point when talking to businesses to make clear that it's not just a legal matter. There are strong legal implications, yes. And I'm sure that you will refer to them. However, it's an implication for the whole business. It's for marketing, sales, finance, HR. And the data companies handle are a little bit like the foundation of a house. You can build a house on a solid foundation and make it grow nicely and be solid, or you can build it on a foundation that is made of sand and rubbish. And the thing is, if you don't handle data correctly, you lose the value of the data because you may not be able to use it anymore in the future. And that is going through the complete company and is a business decision, not with a strong legal component, not just a legal matter. I think this awareness, showing also examples from other regions where companies did that, not all succeeded, but there are prime examples of companies who handled that very professionally, may show the business leaders that it's not just something to comply with, check the box and move on, but actually to build their business along this way.
Yeah, just one thing. Yeah, I can fully underline that. Yeah, it's also I read it quite recently in connection with cyber security, where it was said that also 19% of the people believe that cybersecurity is not a matter of the security guys, but a matter of the business. And the same goes with privacy. Privacy is not a matter of the DPO or some centralized team. It's for everybody. So you need also really to strive that and to really emphasize that. And then it works. And it's like nice picture with the house drawn on a solid basis. Same picture with the big oil tanker or the Titanic or whatever. It moves in one direction, but when it takes time to move it in another direction. But if that is the case, everyone is working in that direction, and you have the solid basis already for the privacy topic, then you can work on the ethics topic, and then you probably need to work in the future. And this is also the constant change we will see in the next years around things like artificial intelligence, large language models, etc., and how this will or need to be treated from a company perspective, but also from a societal perspective as well.
I think it's still the business versus legal or marketing versus legal.
Yeah, to some extent, yes. But well, again, I can speak for my company. This was very much of a fight or some border between. Okay, well, there's the legal people. Declining these things or so. Sometimes could have even used as an excuse. What is illegal, guys? We're happy not to do it. But the legal guys decided. But this has changed, I would say, in the recent years. Because it's really more and more sort of cooperation on both sides. So business is really also wanting to meet conditions. They already know the conditions. That's a difference than, for example, 5 years ago. There were it was what is this about? Now it's really okay. I know this, and this. I have a problem with number 5. Can you help me? Then we think of ways how to overcome a certain topic. So it's really more of a cooperation in the recent years.
I think you should come up with solutions instead of problems. I think that's the most important point, right? If you have a discussion, or in my history, if I had a discussion with the legal department, it was always a list of things you should not do instead of how we could solve it together. I think that's the most important point, to find a good way. And some of my current employees had a good idea for a workshop to do reverse engineering with the legal department to find a way how we could ensure that our relationship is even worse, and then find another way to do it to improve it. and it was a lot of fun to find ways to ensure we are not able to work together. And yeah. So how could companies and organizations promote a data protection friendly environment or corporate culture?
If I may start, I can just say, the most important topic, both for the sole regulation part or regulatory part, but as well on the ethics part, is that you have the right tone from the top. Yeah, it doesn't work if you don't have your top management, your boards aboard, so to say, the topic. So they need to really support you or the topic as such. Yeah, so that's the first thing. Second thing is that on the regulatory part, of course, you need a strong, I would say, policy framework. Whatever you need to have the rules implemented. Yeah. Implemented also in a way that it is probably explained rather than, for example, just copying the law. Yeah, really explaining that's what it's about to nail it down. Yeah. And then, of course, it's constant, as you said, awareness. So it's not only the things like, well, of course, when you enter Erste Group, for example, you need to do, 10 web-based trainings about different topics, anti-money laundering, data protection, of course, security, etc., etc. Yeah? So that's the basis, I would say. Yeah? But on top of that, yeah, you need to constantly have the topic in the awareness of the people in everyday life. Yeah? So it's about internet news, it's about quizzes, it's about gamification, for example. Yeah, so this is also working quite good. It's about also giving bits and pieces, yeah, the one or other topic, or reminding on the 5th year anniversary of GDPR tomorrow. Yeah, so it's constant things like that which keep it alive. Yeah? And it is also, I would say, then the even younger people, they're more aware about the topic than the older generation. So it's also then you could also generation focused trainings, something like that. Yeah? But this is the constant awareness is something which is really important about it.
I think when you think of anti-corruption, everyone in every company is aware that the Rolex or the Cartier watches are not gifts that you should take easily.
Why?
And with data privacy, it's sometimes different because still people believe that this is the job of the data protection officer, and they have to care for this whole privacy thing. And but the distribution of accountability and responsibility for all those topics is really important. To really raise the awareness, because people only will be interested in all those gamified quizzes and webinars when they also feel the responsibility. And I think this is a very crucial point. And one other thing is that I think we have also here to decide if you are talking to startups and very small companies or like huge corporations. Because as you said, in huge corporations, the culture always follows the structure. Maybe, you know, Larman's law of organizational behavior. But it's different in smaller companies where the structure follows the culture. And I think this is where you should decide on which size of the company you are, with which kind of company you are talking, and where to start, with the cultural aspect or with the structure aspect.
I would like to answer this question with an anecdote. So when I worked at one of the major consent management platforms in the world, we had this meeting, final contract meeting. It was about consent management, about processes, about where does data flow. And it was this client was a major European football club. And the CEO came in order to sign the contract, got a quick briefing, and said, look, guys, you're the experts. I don't even understand what you're talking about in details. However, what I would like to say is that our brand consists of several sports values. One of them is being trust. We just need to make sure that we don't damage our brand by doing anything stupid with data. And I think this was, and I'm trust in you that you just, it sounds like you handled it the right way. So I'm happy to sign this agreement. And I think that shows the tone of the top management you referred to, the culture of an organization, and the processes with empowerment, a data-driven culture, and also making sure that it's a little bit more. It's about the brand of the company, the values of the company. It's not just a slip, like a Rolex would not just be a slip. And it comes from top and then has to be permanently reinforced with positive examples.
Okay, let's wrap up. Trainings, positive examples. What else?
Showing brand value.
Show brand value. So top-down strategy to ensure that you have built up empowerment.
Responsibilities.
Responsibilities. Okay.
Yeah, probably one additional aspect. I mean, that's for the regulatory part working quite well, yeah, because you have always behind that you have the law. Yeah, you can also refer, well, it's in the law. Yeah, I only translate it for you. For the ethics part, of course, yeah, it's something always I consider that is on top of the law. Yeah, so you're not only adhering to the regulatory part, yeah, but you so to say make a sort of self-binding with some aspects. Yeah. And this is then the difficult part. It's probably not only about creating tone from the top, awareness, etc., etc. It's really then about also explaining what is in there for me. So what is in there for the business? What's the advantage for the business? So that's an additional part. So there's more effort to that. But if they understand the advantage, and then it's a sort of cooperation to come to that ethical rules, of course, between, again, business on the one hand, and then the different stakeholders like it's not only the DPO, of course, but also the DPO to come to such ethical rules.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And there's even one more layer on top of the ethics layer, which is the philanthropic layer, where you really are asked to give back to the community, to do something for the public, to engage in volunteering, in education measures. So there's even one layer on top of all the legal and the ethical aspects.
And you can still meet your revenue goals.
Maybe only by doing so. In the future, at least.
Any questions?
Klaus?
Jonas, you have a title CTO, Chief Data Officer, as far as I know, at FUNKE Group. There is also a CTO standing for Chief Digital Officer. So we're talking about something paradox, because is it digital, is it data? It's all the same. But if you have to choose whether your CTO is called Chief Digital or Chief Data Officer, what would you vote for?
Chief Data Officer. I think it's the holistic view is more or less focusing on data instead of digital, right? And the future will be for sure digital, but for the next 5 or 10 years, there will be omni-channel players like Douglas or other companies who need to find a way to connect offline and online for sure. And the bridge could be data and should be data. And that's why I would choose Chief Data Officer for the future.
Any disagreement on the panel?
Oh, it's good. I can. My title stays. Any questions? They already raised their hands and did some sport exercises with me. So, okay. The new buzzword, data mesh. The whole data industry is increasingly talking about data mesh, for sure. How will it affect the data culture and also the data ethics in companies and the future?
Try to start. Yeah. I must confess I don't have any practical experience with that, but from a theoretical point of view, or actually only probably parts of it from a theoretical point of view. I mean, there's probably on the one hand this need that companies do a change. I mean, if I especially look again, coming from a big company, it's definitely also different than small or even really the small enterprises. We have a very still old-fashioned core of IT. Yeah? There's a centralized IT data warehouse. Yeah? It's the single source of truth. Cannot easily be replaced, actually, from a sole change standpoint. And of course, the rules to data access and such things are quite, I would say hierarchical is probably the wrong word, but processually structured. Yeah? But that's not probably what we need for the future. For the future is about that data scientists need fast access to the data, need to work with the data constantly, need to develop models, need to further work on models, change models, etc., need constant data access. So in that area where you have the one hand the data, as a safe store. On the other hand, you have these people who need to work on the data in order to create some insight, to create some value, whatever. So that is something where we see on the one hand the need that you have sort of again the picture data supermarket. But on the other hand, you need to know. Who is going to enter that supermarket, who is allowed to enter the supermarket, what's in the supermarket, what products can be bought by which person. So you need to have that rules implemented as well, and that is probably the bigger change. But if you get that correctly done, I think it's really helping a lot. It's on the one hand, probably as of now seen as a hindrance, but in the midterm and the long term, it is really then something which is also from a privacy perspective, and you can put ethical rules on top of it or philanthropic rules on top of it as well, that it is seen as a benefit. Then also data scientists who are not, I would say, not knowing whether there's any data scientists in the room, that they're not, so to say, interested in violating any data protection. Also, they're really glad that they know, okay, I have access. I know I'm also allowed to have access. So this is then also I would say the positive part about that. But this is, for example, for such enterprises and business like the banking business, quite a huge topic. I would say a huge change topic.
Data mesh?
Yeah. The art historian in me is tempted to quote Andy Warhol, who once said, everyone will be popular for 15 minutes in the future. And my argument would be that everyone has to be a data scientist for 15 minutes, at least in the future. And this is something where a data mesh can bring us, because when the whole working with data is distributed within the whole organization, more and more people will get used to work with data and get the best out of their data. And also when data products in form of dashboards or anything are developed within the teams that are the closest to the business cases, and that can be shared easily in a very intuitive, understandable way with other departments. We can break up silo thinking. We can, really increase and improve the usage of data. And we also have the distribution of responsibility, because everyone is then responsible that the data is used in the right way, and that there are real use cases before data are extracted, so that you have a real benefit out of the data. And that might also lead to data minimization, because we don't collect everything and save it in a data warehouse or a data lake, but it's more end user centric and more use case focused. And I think that would definitely help in privacy terms, but also in ethical terms, because people are more aware of how to use data and how to deal with data.
Yeah, I think to make data mesh work is probably a product of culture change and tooling. If you just work on one thing, if you just work on culture change, that's great. Today, dashboards are given to employees. The hierarchically higher managers request their own dashboards. That's already a status symbol. And then centrally, somebody resolves this ticket 2 weeks later, hopefully. So that's the cultural changes. Oh, I need this and that data. But then there's the tooling aspect, of course. It needs to be safe. It needs to be sure that only data that can be accessed legally and for business protection reasons can be handled by the right person. And that also requires some tooling. If you just provide the tools and the culture change is not there, nothing will happen. Nobody will use the tools. If you just work on the culture change and don't provide the right tooling, you run big business risks because strange things can happen with data. Funny exports by interns that are sent externally to paint one black picture. But the good thing with the product of culture change and the right tooling, it can be changed. And funniest experience is, I saw that in one of my own scale-ups previously, not at JENTIS, not at User-Centrics, when actually sales reps learned that they can create their own Salesforce dashboards. Oh, what a surprise, instead of requesting, oh, I need this view and that view, and that it can be done within 15 minutes of fame and can be shared if it's useful to others. And that's the cultural part. So just as a, let's say, more practical example.
Yeah. In my opinion, there are three pillars. So organization, architecture, and culture. And you need to find a good way. Yeah. And I think it's not about having one central legal department or one central IT department who will take care of the reporting. Self-service is a good example that it works. And I think we all need to take care about the data from the customers or data from the
I think the entrepreneurial cross-functional knowledge today becomes even more important than ever. Just a few weeks ago, we were at Online Marketing Rockstars, a big online marketing conference, and one of my contacts said, aren't we all hobby lawyers today in marketing? Jokingly, but that shows, of course, they have a lot of legal knowledge now because it doesn't make sense to always request an opinion by the legal department. You can pre-filter it by knowing some of the stuff, and the legal folks, of course, get more business understanding to not just say what is not possible, but also to work on joint solutions.
But maybe also in our online audience, a lot of business people are interested whether data mesh is the future, and should they start data meshing or
data meshing?
What do you think, Jonas?
I think buzzwords are very important, and we should do what they mean. I think in my opinion, you need to take care that the right way. I think it's the organization stuff, right? Organization and culture. And my preferred way to implement data organization is hub and spoke, which is more or less near to data mesh. So one central department who will take care about the guidelines, government stuff, strategy, innovation, and giving guidelines for IT or architecture as well. And then you should take care about the spokes, but you need to divide them to with a maturity level, let's say 1 to 3. One is you need to take care about architecture, analytics stuff, self-service, more or less the full package, the full service. And 3 is they could run on their own. And that should be the future, in my opinion. And if you now think about how you could implement it in an organization, should it be data mesh directly? I think it will be more or less like waves. You start with central, and then you implement spokes, and could be more or less focus again on central stuff and stuff like that.
I would agree.
5 minutes left. Not sure why. I thought it was 10, but okay. More questions from the audience?
Yeah, there is one question.
JENTIS is asking questions.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. The question is, can you give any recommendations regarding recruiting if you want to implement data-oriented culture?
you should buy ads in my podcast. No. I think you need to lead with good examples. We already talked about it, right? Before we start the panel. I think the most important point is now all people would like to be a data scientist rock star or a data analyst rock star or a marketing technology rock star, and they would not start in a company where there isn't the strategy or the vision to implement a new architecture or a new culture and stuff like that. I think the most people would like to be a part to establish those things. But additional to that, I think you need to have a clear vision, because otherwise they will not start or work 5 years where nobody wants to do innovation, in my opinion.
Hire people from the humanities, of course. No, just kidding. I think work with people who fit to the company. This is the most important thing, and make sure that they are engaged and want to work with data. And I think then this should be possible for everyone. So I think hire people and not skills.
Hire for attitude, right? Any question? Oh, sorry.
No, I just wanted to say it's that's a really important point. Yeah, vision. We call it purpose. You need to have purpose, and then you can get the people. I mean, at the moment it's probably difficult because the market is so empty. Yeah? So it's like that people can decide for companies rather the other way around. Yeah, but yeah. So that's I think a very decisive point here. Yeah.
Any question? 2 minutes left. Oh.
Hi, my name is Peter Maiko, and I'm head of data engineering at OBI Deutschland GmbH. And I would like to have a question about whether shared ownership or ownership by one party in either a data mesh or hub and spoke for a distinct set of data. Because usually there is a lot of overlap, let's say, between marketing and sales about the user data. So from your experience, the shared ownership or really have one designated owner of a domain?
I think it depends on the strategy. And if you have a clear strategy in place, I think the shared ownership can work well. If there is no clear strategy at place, maybe one ownership might be the leaner way to start with. But
I would
disagree.
Don't agree. Yeah.
Shoot.
The first point. I would say in Germany, I'm not sure how I should translate it. Team ein anderer macht's. You need to ensure that there's one person or one department who is responsible. For sure, there should be one data owner. You could take care and share the data for sure, but there should be one, because if you compare it to data and legal, there's always the versus, right? Or, as you said, marketing is explaining we can't do it because legal says no, and it should not be like that. There should be one person who is responsible, in my opinion.
I have a different view again. Hey, we're getting there. Some disagreement.
10 seconds left.
Okay, there needs to be one owner. I agree. Having spent some time in the military, there needs to be one person who's responsible. However, never ever in life, and this is something I'm really serious about, have marketing and sales work on different data pools. There has to be a common understanding about data and KPIs between sales and marketing and other functions, but with sales and marketing, it's extremely important. And that doesn't mean you cannot have one owner.
Yeah, so you agree.
With me.
And disagree.
Okay, and then I have a follow-up on that one. So let's say we say, okay, just one owner, and then who is the owner? Is it business? Because in the big companies where there is a complex structure, the data producer is usually an application run by some kind of application team of IT. but then there is a data warehouse, right, BI team, and there are often walls between these departments. And for me, the uniting one is business, because they produce the data, their processes produce the data, and they want to consume the data, right?
Yeah.
But often at IT, we are in the position that we are the guardians or heroes of guarding the data.
Because of the time.
Time is over.
So what would be your suggestion for an organization to start considering really business as the owners? Because what they are mostly looking at usually is, we want at their KPIs. And that's what was mentioned in the previous panel. They don't usually care about these things. They want to produce data and do it, but nobody wants to own them.
Well, I would quote George W. Bush Sr. Tear down this wall. Mr. Gorbachev has passed away, but look, if you don't solve this cultural aspect, you can have one owner and data sharing will not work, working professionally with data will not work. The walls between silos have to be torn down. And then with that culture change, the owner will be found. If you just have to appoint somebody who is suddenly the owner, then that's really hard. So unfortunately, there's not an easy answer, at least from my perspective.
I don't have a microphone, but I have an idea.
He's the guy who have 100% of the data. So let's see.
Sorry. Oh, all right. So this will be real quick. I know we're out of time. The hybrid way that's worked for me in the past has been to establish a business owner and a technical owner, and then from that go to leadership and establish from leadership which is first seat and which is second seat. They both have a view, they both have stakeholdership, but it's identified which one's business versus technical, and then someone above your pay grade determines where the business value lives.
Mic drop. In my opinion, it's always the person who is responsible for the data quality should be the person who will provide the data, or the other way around. Otherwise, you will have critical, incorrect reports and nobody take care. And the IT will be blamed for sure.
And I have to correct myself, it was Ronald Reagan.
Thanks a lot. Selfie time. Ich will noch ein Selfie machen. Let's do a selfie at the end. Okay. So, light on.
The audience in the background.
Yeah. Okay. And oh God. Yeah, okay. So.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Cheese. Alle gehen schon raus. Danke.
Super.
Ladies first.